invention. In a case such as this, it's clear that a word coiner had no intention of giving us a new term. In other cases, evidence confirms how often a neologizer didn't anticipate how many of us would adopt a term they invented. These constitute some of the most fascinating stories in the history of neology. No existing book has brought together these little-known accounts of how words have been coined. The hidden history of coined words fills that void. Its first section looks at the many unique ways in which words have been created. By accident, for laughs, as insults, or as hoaxes. The second section considers diverse sources of coined words: cartoons, newspaper columns, books for children, science fiction, works of literature, and ones of scholarship. A final section covers coinage syndromes, words coined deliberately, non-starters, old terms revived, as well as disputation about coinage credit, battles fought over the merits of neologisms, and regret about coining a word or phrase. A concluding chapter offers tips on how to successfully coin a word for those who would like to try. Success consists of inventing a term that others use. A successfully coined word is one that becomes part of our discourse. In his thoughtful book, Predicting New Words, Alan Metcalf concludes that to be considered successful, a new word must remain in common use for at least 2 generations. The linguist Saul Steinmetz thought it took even longer. In some cases, newly coined words disappear, for generations even, then reappear when needed to claim a place in the lexicon. As we'll see, this was the fate of one of our most popular words, serendipity. Although a freshly minted term is the purest form of coinage, related types of word creation recur throughout this book. In particular, recoining consists of giving a new meaning to an old word. It is reborn, as it were. Cookie is a classic recoin, converting a foodstuff into a techno term. Words such as gay, granular, and tweet have been recoined in a similar fashion. Recoinages that are explored in this book include summit, containment, disrupt, and hookup. The backstories of such recoined words are at least as interesting as those involving terms coined from scratch. So are stories about the many terms that were escorted into our discourse by someone who recognized their value better than the originators did themselves. These terms include jitterbug, tipping point, and Joe's six-pack. Because the coinage process is so unpredictable, researching this topic can't rely on the usual methods and sources. One cannot simply search coined on the internet, harvest the results, then cobble them together into a book that purports to be accurate. Consider the name of the search engine used most often to do such work, Google. While exploring the origins of that term, I found an assertion by a Pulitzer Prize-winning Washington Post columnist that Charles Dickens had written about King James I's Google eyes. Further exploration determined that Dickens actually wrote that the king had goggle eyes. Other accounts of the birth of Google rely on a popular but implausible story about this word popping from the mouth of a 9-year-old boy some 8 decades ago. Its roots go back further than that, however, as I discovered by chance. When looking up goon in the old dictionary of Americanisms, my eye happened on an earlier use of Google than any I'd seen elsewhere, buried within a definition of another term. Doing research for this book involved many such happy accidents. That's why writing it has been such a pleasure. While investigating Snoop Dogg's nickname, which derived from the comic strip character Snoopy, I discovered that the rapper had accidentally created a new word by mishearing an old one. When searching unsuccessfully for the magazine article where a scholar named Brander Matthews was said to have introduced the word blurb, I found an essay by Matthews himself in which he denied being the source of that word and correctly identified its actual coiner. Experiences